This is the talk of Music City Real Estate with Monte Mohr and Carey Ann Cyr. Monte has over 30 years of real estate experience with over $1 billion in sales and 3,000 homes sold. Carey Ann has closed over $300 million in mortgages since 2016. She has become known for closing nearly impossible deals while getting families into their dream homes. Now, Monte and Carey Ann answer your real estate questions on the talk of Music City Real Estate.
SuperTalk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Hi, my name is Monte Mohr. I'm a local real estate broker, and I'm thrilled to co-host this with an amazing lady by the name of...
Hey, I'm Carey Ann Cyr, yes, with CMG Financial and my mortgage team, and we are so excited to have you join us.
What a great opportunity, Carey Ann. This is going to be so exciting. I couldn't even sleep last night because I'm so excited about sharing our experiences, our insights. I mean, between the two of us, how many thousands of folks have we got to help over the years? It's pretty incredible.
It is so incredible. You know, we are bringing a new vibe to Sunday night radio. We're talking all things real estate.
All things real estate. Nothing's held back. I don't have a filter sometimes at 66 years old. I'm just warning you right now, okay?
I love it. Hey, so we might be talking all things related to purchasing a new home. Maybe that's their first home or second home or even an investment property.
And speaking of questions, if anyone does have questions, and we're going to be feeding on those questions, just send those questions in to questions@talkmusiccity.com. That's questions@talkmusiccity.com.
Hey, and all those folks that like to hashtag, we sure want to make sure you're hashtagging at Talk Music City. So hashtag all your questions to Talk Music City. So what else do you think we're going to be talking about on this show called The Talk of Music City Real Estate? Well,
today, Carey Ann, we're going to be talking about the 5 keys to buying a home in today's market. You know, it's still a crazy market out there in some price points, and there's some real key protocols that you can be mindful of when you're out there competing in a hot price point and so forth. Before we do that though, what in the world makes you so qualified to be one of the best in the business? Can you share it with us a little bit about the backstory?
My backstory?
Your story.
My resume. Hey, yeah, so I love telling this story. It's a lot of fun. You know, so I grew up in a small town up in New England, right on the seacoast called Dover, New Hampshire, and got my business degree from the University of New Hampshire. Was the oldest, had 3 siblings, but you know, my true passion was following in my footsteps of my dad. He was a singer. He loved music. So I realized actually out of 4 kids, I was the only one who could carry a tune, right? So he had me singing at all kinds of different events growing up. Whether that was the dive bars that I wasn't of legal age to sing at, or all the competitions, you know.
What a great experience, though.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
What great memories you must have.
Country music was not a big thing up in New England at the time, so many years ago. And my dad being in the military, that's actually how we got stationed in New Hampshire. He was in the Air Force, Lieutenant Colonel. You know, he had me singing the national anthem at all of the sporting events, and had the pleasure and the honor to be able to sing to all the troops overseas.
Wow.
So he was, you know, doing a lot with getting the military just over there, and a lot of entertainment. So it wasn't a USO, but it was close enough for me. But we sang at the base in Germany. I think it was Sicily, Spain, and
Holy
Bosnia.
Cow.
So a lot of fun.
What an amazing experience.
It was.
No, stop for a second. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm looking from the north, you know? I get talking.
Are you going to sing for us? Is what I want to know.
Yeah, maybe, depending on how this show goes. We might have to turn it around. You'd love it. You know, but it only made sense to move to Nashville, right? They said to make it big, you had to be in Nashville,
Absolutely.
Tennessee, right? So this small town girl was going to move and had all the support of her family. So I got down here and was, you know, one of many starving artists, right? We were serving on the side. I was at a popular Mexican restaurant here in town. And 2 years goes by and I'm looking around saying, hey, we're all aging. And I'm still trying to make it big. And so having my business degree, I realized that maybe I should be doing something else than just serving. And so my manager at the time said, you know, have you ever thought about the mortgage industry? And my wife is teaching these classes on a Saturday, and would you be interested? And so I went ahead and signed up for every one of her classes, and she was so kind to mentor me and give me the opportunity to join a mortgage firm at the ground level.
Wow.
It was a great experience.
That's such a natural segue, I think, because we're serving people.
Yeah.
That's what we do every day. Is we serve people, whether we're serving them enchiladas or whether we're serving them some excellence and finding right mortgage for them. We're serving people.
Yes.
I love it.
I always say my daughter, we'll get into that in a hot minute, but I always say my daughter, she needs to do manual labor growing up and also serving, because I think that was an amazing experience. But, coming in on the ground level of the mortgage firm, I was the girl that was getting the cup of coffee and, dropping off the FedEx when paper was cool, when we had to submit all the papers. And they moved me slowly into, taking applications for customers and processing paperwork. And they even gave me the red pen that one time to underwrite.
Holy cow, look out.
Watch out. Everybody was approved when I got that red pen. I love
it.
So I moved into, they quickly took that away because everybody was approved. It wasn't, it was a good day when Carey Ann got your file, right? But moved into management and sales. And so now today, 18 years later, I manage and operate a large firm for CMG Financial. And I also lead one of the top mortgage origination teams here. We call it My Mortgage Team. And last year, we were really blessed and honored to have the opportunity to serve over 613 families with all their mortgage financing needs.
Let's pause for a second.
Yeah.
600 families. 600, how many? 13?
Yeah, over.
Over 613 families. That's a small city. I mean, that's a lot of. That is a lot of families. Yes. And so, I always say that I live, breathe, and bleed mortgages, right? So I know everything to do with mortgages. So I'm excited to be on the Talk of Music City Real Estate and be a voice behind, all things mortgage related as well. So the questions are so important to us. We can gain a lot of wealth here through real estate, just understanding everything to do with what we've got here. Applied knowledge is power, and I mean, I'm so excited for the folks who are going to be able to listen to how to prepare themselves if they've got credit issues. There's so many topics that we're going to be able to discuss in this.
Yeah.
This is exciting.
Absolutely. And the why behind what I do every single day is my 6-year-old little girl, and so she's a lot of fun. So being a mom and one that can kind of just relate, out there and share how we can help many more people get approved, for sure. So
she's one incredible little girl, I got to tell you. She's only 6?
We should say she's 6. She turns 6 next month, but she's telling me, Mommy, you should just call me 6.
That's for sure. And she's precious. I mean, she's way ahead of her time.
She is. She's in sales. She's going to be selling mortgages here in no time. I always say she's going straight to Hollywood, and then she tells me, "No, Mommy, don't send me to Hollywood." And I was like, "That's why you're going straight to Hollywood."
Absolutely.
So, Monte, you are one that has a big story to tell, and so I know that we need to take a break here, but we will be. We're going to be. This is our first show, right? We're learning.
Numero uno.
Yeah, our first show. So we're going to learn how it all works here for sure. So, Monte, do you want to share a little bit more kind of about who Monte is, kind of tease them, and then when we come back, tell them the whole story? It's
really not a whole lot to get excited about, especially after following you. I just fell off a pumpkin truck one day and decided to sell homes. I'm not the sharpest rock in the pile for sure. So I was actually a laid-off factory worker in the Midwest.
Wow.
And a friend of mine went down to Florida to start a church, and he wanted me to come down and help him. And I said, I don't know how I'm going to make a living down there. Things were so bad in the Midwest, they were tearing homes down, and it was not a pretty sight. I actually qualified for food stamps. I mean, that's how bad I was cutting firewood for a living. I was working at Sears selling tires and batteries. Well, anyway, his father started, interviewing me, and he said, well, if you're going to work this hard, I was working 3 jobs at the time. He said, you might as well get into real estate. He owned a real estate company, and I said, well, how much do you think I could make selling real estate? That was an obvious question. He said, well, I bet you can make $30,000 a year. And I said, $30,000 a year? That's twice what I'm making now, and
There
I'm
you
working
go.
3 jobs.
Wow.
So I know it's hard to imagine now, but I packed up my family, a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 6-year-old,
Wow.
and moved from Peoria, Illinois area down to the Cocoa Beach, Florida area. So it seems pretty stupid now, pretty crazy. Not only a new business, but that I had no background in, but also in a new area that I knew no one in, just to make it difficult, Crazy time. We're going to come back here in... one more minute. We're going to come back here in one more minute. We're still learning this whole thing, right? So anyway, I got down there that second year I was there. The space shuttle. Well, first of all, I didn't make $30,000. I didn't sell a whole lot of real. I sold some things. I sold one of the cars. I sold one of the TVs. I sold some bikes, to pay some bills.
Out of the garage.
Out of the garage. I didn't sell a lot of real estate because shortly after getting down there, the Challenger, if you remember, went up and didn't come down. And
oh, yes.
that was not a good time to be in real estate. It was a very, very, very bad time for that Cocoa Beach area. But anyways, that's my short version of my story, and that's probably enough anybody wants to know right now. But when we come back, we're going to be talking again about the 5 keys to buying a home in today's market. Some people get the opportunity, some people don't, because some are better prepared. We're going to help folks become better prepared here in this next section. We are SuperTalk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City real estate. SuperTalk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City real estate. We are back.
We are back.
And look out. We are back. And so excited to talk about these 5 keys to buying a home in today's market to help people make sure that they're the first one in line and not the one that missed out.
For sure. Hey. But Monte, you left us hanging, my friend. You left us hanging. You've got so much more to share. I was telling about where I was born and where I went, and here I am. And we got to a garage. You just sold me the wares in your garage. What more do you have to share?
Well, I wanted people to know I didn't make that $30,000 the first year in real estate.
There you go.
And that's another story. So I'm originally from California. I've lived in Missouri. I've lived in Illinois, and I moved. And we shared when I hit Florida. And so this is not my first rodeo. I have an amazing wife, Connie. I call her Connie Sue because she's from Chicago, and everybody ought to have a second name like a Carey Ann. She doesn't think so. From Chicago, she doesn't think she should have a second name. But I call her Connie Sue just to be the nice husband I am. Well, this is not our first rodeo, and so I actually got to Tennessee via the music industry as well. It's not
Amazing.
Everybody's aware of that. And no, I don't sing, and you don't want me to. I was married to somebody, though, who was a singer, and like so many, thought that they were really good when they were somewhere else, and when we got to Nashville, found out, holy smokes, this is where the big dogs play here.
Yeah.
So anyhow, that was an interesting experience. So here I went while I was in Florida, I actually was the number 1 agent in Brevard County, Florida, for a few years there. And I came to Nashville, and much to my dismay, nobody cared about what I had done in Florida.
Right.
I mean, it was crazy. I was selling 150 homes a year myself in Florida, and came here, and it's like, holy cow, how do I survive? So I went to work as a buyer's agent for one of the top agents in town, and did that for a while, and then, so anyhow, fast forward, now I own a real estate office by the name of Realty One Group Music City, which somewhere along the line, we're going to have to talk about that, because I'm so excited about this new opportunity, this new franchise, this new opportunity for agents to make 100% of their commission. But that's not why we're here today. We are going to be talking about 5 keys to buying a home in today's market. But before we do that, though, I want to share some other topics that we're going to be covering over these next weeks ahead of us.
What are those?
Well, we've got things like, are all mortgage companies created equal? After all, they all have to follow the same guidelines, don't they? I think you're going to have something to share about that. What makes you different? Because, Carey Ann, I'm telling you what, you're going to hear this more than once, folks. I cannot overemphasize the importance of having an amazing mortgage person. I just can't overemphasize it. There's so many times where down to the wire and the mortgage company dropped the ball because they were still trying to figure it out. And that's why I'm so grateful to be partnering here with Carey Ann. So another topic is it better to sell a home Is it better to sell to a homeowner requiring financing or an investor paying cash?
Oh, great question. Great topic.
Is accepting a sight unseen offer a good idea when selling a home? I just did this last week and it didn't work out.
Ooh.
There's no emotional connection, but we'll get into that. You know, there's so many elements. Another one, buying a home after a short sale, foreclosure, and other credit challenges.
Yes.
We're going to have a good time talking about how people can get their credit in a place where they can buy a home.
We'll share like little tips on how we can boost their credit even within 30 days. It's going to be great.
I'm really excited. I've seen you do magic for folks, and that's exciting. How to price a home properly to sell, yet get the most for it that it could possibly sell for. The secret for doing both. That's a little tricky sometimes. Mm-hmm. Getting it sold quickly, but getting the maximum that you can. Well, we have a strategy that works real well. What does an escalation clause mean? And for a buyer and for a seller, and is it a good idea? So we have, a bunch of topics here, Carey Ann, we're going to be able to share with the folks, and I wanted to just give them a peek there because I think that a lot of folks are going to see a lot of value in this opportunity.
Yes, and we want to make sure that all of our listeners are just feeling comfortable and confident with everything to do with real estate.
Right.
So if one of these topics works well with you, if not, share us with your questions to the talk musiccity.com, right? So
questions
email
at
all
the
questions.
talk.
Yes, questions at the talk musiccity.com, and be sure to hashtag Talk Music City as well. So that's really important because we want to make sure your questions are answered and you guys are feeling confident with everything.
And this is what's going to make this program so exciting, to hear those questions from our vantage point. I think somebody would be hard pressed to come up with a topic that we haven't covered a couple of times probably in our careers, considering the thousands of folks that we've been will to help.
Yeah, and there's so many different scenarios that cross paths, right? I mean, there are things that just happened last week that we can share, that will be relevant to so many people and so many of our listeners out there.
And I might even throw in a crazy story once in a while. Some of my agents hear me tell some crazy stories. You can imagine if I've sold 3,000 homes plus, you can imagine I've probably been in, I don't know how many, probably 500,000 homes maybe or something. I don't know. But a lot of situations,
wow.
A lot of stuff I've walked into. Crazy situations.
Hey, and I always say don't judge a book by its cover, because I get the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm working on solutionizing a way to get people approved for financing, right? The biggest problem that so many of us have today is what?
Financing,
which is money.
Money.
Should I do it? Yeah. Money.
I'm sorry.
Did you just take my spotlight there? You did. Look at you. You come here for the music industry, but you're not in the music industry. And look at you taking over the microphone. I love it.
I keep forgetting we're live here almost, so I'm sorry.
Too funny. This is great. Hey, so let's get started here. Let's talk about the 5 keys to buying a home in today's market. Key number 1.
Key number 1, make getting the right home the higher priority over the old thinking of getting the deal. So often, especially as men, we get hung up in the chase, in the deal, in the negotiating, in the, we're gonna go out and conquer and drag it home, and Mama's gonna be proud of us.
Just men? Are we going there? I'm joking. Keep going.
Too often. Too often. I think it's a man. So here's a helpful hint, guys. Great deals are a matter of interpretation. If it's the right home, that's a great deal. Embrace that idea, and life will be easier for you. Here's what I've learned as a man. That we're pretty simple creatures. If you give us a good bed and a decent shower, we're pretty happy.
And a meal here and there?
A meal here and there. So if you can keep your other half happy, you're a lot better off. So key number 2.
Get accurate information on new listings. Get set up on an automated search that is tied directly to the information source, RealTrax. Maybe not so much the others that you're speaking of, maybe including Zillow, Trillia, and some other secondary sources.
Yeah, so what happens as agents, so often the tail's wagging the dog. We should be hooking our folks up with the source of the information, the source being RealTrax, okay? And too often people are out to all these other ancillary services and depending on that information, and too often it's not accurate. And they're looking at properties that maybe were available last month or last year in some cases. Some of these sites still don't update them as often as they should.
Interesting.
So if you're in the hunt to get a house right away, make sure that you're connected to the RealTrax database and that your agent has set you up an automatic notification so you're finding out immediately. Which takes us to the next part, and that is be ready on a daily basis to jump out there and look at every new property that fits your general criteria. Don't wait till the weekend. If you wait till the weekend, too often you're too late.
Don't wait for the weekend.
Don't wait for the weekend. Be ready to play Pop-Tart. It's the name of that story. And it is challenging sometimes to do that because back in the day when the market wasn't so hot, we could pick 6 homes, go out and show 6 homes, and 1 or 2 of those would work and call it a day. Now it doesn't work that way because now if you pick out 6 homes, 3 of them are already sold, depending on the price point, of course. 3 of them are already sold, and the other two of those you didn't care for at all when you pulled up to them, and then the third one it's got another couple of offers on it already.
Well, I'm excited to talk more about this because, being a family gal, we don't have a lot of time. So this is a good one. Hey, so we'll be right back at you here at the Talk of Music City Real Estate.
SuperTalk 99.7 WTN, the Talk of Music City Real Estate. We are back.
We are back.
We're back, and we're going to be talking about all things real estate. And we want to remind everybody that if you have any questions, please send them to questions@talkmusiccity.com. That's questions@talkmusiccity.com. And I know as hot as the real estate market has been, as big a deal as it's been around Nashville for the last few years, Carey Ann, I'm betting that there's going to be some awesome questions coming in.
Oh, yes. We're excited to have those for sure. So let's get back and talk more about key number 3, being ready to jump whenever you call, when there's that hot property ready and it's on the market, not waiting to the end of the week to get out there. Being a mom of a 6-year-old and working full time, there's not a lot of extra time, right, to have a personal life. So when you're working full 2-time jobs, right?
Yeah.
And so, but when it comes to finding the right house, like you said, spending time. Back in the day, we could just kind of schedule that out. Well, those houses could be gone today, right?
They can be, and the market, people have asked, is the market as hot as it was? It's maybe not as hot as it was a year ago, but it's still in certain price points. It's still hot. I mean, we still get multiple offers on properties. So you have to take that in mind. I mean, I hate it when we get to a property because we couldn't get out there right away. And you can tell it's just the perfect home for these folks,
Right.
But they couldn't jump out there as was suggested, and then I make a quick phone call to the other agent, and sorry, we just accepted another offer or an offer on that property, and it's really frustrating. And so many times it comes with, first of all, again, getting on an automatic notification so that you're one of the first to find out about it, not waiting to find out on an ancillary source, and then jumping as soon as you can jump. And so that's going to eventually bring us to talking about how do you choose a real estate person as well, but we're not going to go there right now. But I just want to always remind folks, look, this is not about convenience. This is about the hunt for the right home.
Right.
And if you're looking for a certain property and a certain price point, I can almost guarantee that other people as well, so you're going to be competing. So first one in the door a lot of times wins.
So kind of really, if you're going to be eager to find a new home for your family, plan it out, as in have that be the season, as in you need to be ready at any time. Right?
You have to, and you have to get buy-in from the rest of your family of that inconvenience. It's not convenient.
It's not convenient.
Or you can drag it out if you're really having a really bad time. Let's just drag it out and make it last longer than we need to. These are helpful hints to help people maximize their efforts. Okay.
Sure. And so that's really goes into preparing you, and we'll talk a little bit more about all of that. But making sure you're fine if you're ready to buy a home, and we know how quickly this process can go. Making sure that everything everything is prepared on the upfront, right? The financing is prepared.
Yeah, that's so
you
key.
are ready. If you have a house to sell, are you planning to remodel, right? If you and I get out there and we find the house of our dreams, like I did when I saw a picture of a antler chandelier, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the house for me, right?
That's right.
And I already had another house. I mean, but I got so emotionally wrapped up, I got myself caught sideways, and so that happens to a lot of us. So I think we get excited about maybe just, hey, what's out there, and maybe we're not 100% ready to rock and roll, but being prepared is so key, because you're right. You never know. If you find the right house, you got to be ready to jump on it in this day and age.
And if you're not, we're going to talk about this further here in a minute, but if you've not, as a buyer, if you've not taken that extra step to get that approval letter, then you're just going out there. You're going out there blindfolded. You're going out there with, totally weak. You're not going out there as a strong buyer. So key number 4 is once and this is really important, Carey Ann, this is really, really important. And I think a lot of times people miss out on this because none of us, it's human nature, I think, or we've heard those voices from a well-meaning, family, is that once you do find the home that you think is it, well, let's go home and sleep on it. Or, find out how old the roof is, or find out what the HOA is, and these kind of things. I'm telling you, you are, again, hurting yourself if you take that methodical of approach. I hate, trying to, there's a balance in there as a real estate professional. We want our folks not to feel rushed. At the same time, we want to warn them that, look, if you go home and sleep on this, tomorrow might be too late to get that.
Oh, wow, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's a hard one as a caring real estate professional that really wants people to follow their hearts and, do the next right thing. It's really, really frustrating when you get to that point. They love the house. It's perfect. It's everything that they've ever imagined. But their dad said, well, you don't make a move like this on this big of a deal until you go home and sleep on it, or you find out how old the roof is. It doesn't matter how old the roof is. And I can't tell you how many times I've gotten that question, knowing I've got a hot property, and I get the question from the other side, well, we need to know how old the roof is, or when's the last time the septic was cleaned out, or questions like that don't really matter. That's what that inspection window is for.
Oh, okay.
Is to do your due diligence then. Your goal at that moment is to get the home off the market. Okay? Let's see if we can determine if we can get a meeting of the minds on that part of it. But so often I see people, pursuing all these other side topics, never knowing if the buyer and seller can even get together on that crucial thing. That one thing is the number.
I see. Yeah.
Okay, so they're doing all this extra stuff. In the meantime, somebody else comes along and takes the home off the market. Okay, because they didn't wait to do everything beforehand.
Well, it's kind of like that situation where that house has probably been sitting on the market for a really long time with no buyers, right? Then we come in and we're excited maybe about buying this house, right? But we want to go home and sleep on it, and all of a sudden there's 3 offers. It's like
I've seen it happen so many times.
I have not seen a red car. I'm going to go out and buy a new red truck, and now everybody has a red truck. It's that same situation.
Yep.
So, it happens to me all the time, and so you're right. We cannot wait. If we find something that we like, we at least need to move in the direction of having the conversation, get it on paper. Is that what you're saying? I'm saying,
look, let's get the property off the market.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's negotiate. Honestly and fairly, and get the home off the market. But we have a 10-day window then, whether or not we're going to actually buy the property based on the inspection results. We have plenty of time to figure out how old the roof is, or when the last time the septic was cleaned out, or what the HOA covers. All these other things that I've seen people not write a contract because they were waiting for all the details.
Right.
Okay.
So how do I get that property off the market?
Well, that's when we want to sit down with our professional real estate professional and draw up those terms that they will help us with. And again, we're going to talk about pricing at another experience. But let's talk about this. How do we get it off the market? Okay. Yeah. So really, really important. Always write the offer as though you are competing with another one.
Okay.
Okay, you follow that?
Which today we usually are, right?
Well, a lot of times you are, but the assumption is if you reach out to the other agent, your agent has reached out to the other one and asked that question, are you working with anything? you don't want to take the lackadaisical attitude of, well, I'm not competing with anybody, so I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to negotiate at a lower price. Don't do that. Remember, the property has to appraise most of the time, and the appraisal doesn't always come in. So my point is, make your offer as clean as possible. Avoid weasel clauses. Weasel clauses are, well, my great aunt Matilda's got to look at the property before we're really signed off on. As an experienced listing agent, if you see a bunch of weasel clauses or you see an offer that's not really a clean,
Did you just say weasel clauses?
I said weasel clauses. I did. Those are designed to weasel out of that opportunity to buy the home.
All right, here we go.
Okay, that's what a weasel clause is.
We're going to put that in the Monte category.
Weasel clause, that's right. So avoid weasel clauses. Make your offer as clean as possible. Find out what the seller's needs are. So, one thing that happens a lot of times as an experienced listing agent, it doesn't happen often enough. And that is that the other agent who's just shown the property, making a phone call to the listing agent and saying, hey, what's most important to your clients? Is it important for them to have a little time afterward, after the closing, for instance, to vacate the house? What's most important to them? When I get that phone call, I know I'm dealing with a professional on the other side. And that means something. Again, I might sound like a little cynical at times, but when you've worked with so many folks that maybe don't have the best interests or are not experienced or not coming from the right place, it does cause you to really appreciate at least those who are methodical in their approach and are actually reaching out to the listing agent saying, hey, what besides the price, what else is important to the sellers here?
Well, it takes so many people now, to really have a successful transaction. So everybody working in the best interest of both of their clients, right? But again, everybody has to work together to get to the finish line. You
Absolutely.
know? And so that is both agents coming together, figuring out, my needs and wants as the buyer, your needs and wants as the seller. Right. That's huge, for sure.
On that topic, I think it's really best if we could all, as real estate professionals, embrace the idea that, look, I know you represent your client, I represent mine, but let's do this as well. Let's represent the integrity of the transaction.
Love that.
Because at the end of the day, if the client that I'm not representing feels like they got taken advantage of, that's a reflection on our industry. I want us all to feel win-win. My conviction is if it's not win-win, it's not win at all.
Yes, absolutely. And so, making sure that we're all kind of working together. Now, how do you know more about what the seller needs? The seller, have they communicated, I assume, to their agent all of their specifics? Yeah.
For instance, we just sold a house a couple days ago, and the other agent reached out and said, look, what's the most important for your clients? I said, well, my clients are retiring. They're buying a smaller place. They really need to get into that place and paint it before they move out of it. And they can't buy that and paint it until they close on theirs. So would you be... So if you want to if you want your offer to rise above the other two, that could be a really important factor. Allow them a day or two to vacate.
Good information. Hey, so we're going to be right back with you here at the Talk of Music City Real Estate. We're going to be finishing up talking about writing that offer and making it successful.
SuperTalk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City Real Estate,
where we educate and motivate all things real estate. We are so thankful that you have joined us this Sunday evening. We are talking 5 keys to buying a home in today's market.
And remember, all those questions go to questions@talkmusiccity.com. That's questions@talkmusiccity.com.
Or hashtag Talk Music City.
I got to tell you, I've never hashtagged. If somebody held a gun to my head and said, you got to hashtag, I guess I'm dead.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
I know, but do you like just to push a hashtag? What do you do?
Yeah, you hashtag.
You hashtag it.
Yeah, like the symbol,
You hit the
cross.
symbol, right.
Yeah.
But what happens after that?
And then you type in Talk Music City, and then wherever their question is, when we go and look at that hashtag, we're going to see all of their questions.
So many times things in life aren't nearly as hard as we make them up to be, In my mind, what are they talking about hashtag? I hate to even admit that.
Hey, we learn something new every day.
I'm glad I came
here.
here. I've already learned something.
I love it. All right, so we're talking about writing the offer and making it the most successful.
And, this next part here is, and I'm not sure about my numbers, so I'm saying, look, if the property seems to be priced correctly, remember, don't haggle over a few $1,000s. I've seen so many times especially the guy, I'm picking on the guys right now, I know, but they get hung up on a few $1,000s. You're talking about a $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 or $600,000 property, whatever the number is, and you want to screw around. You want to mess it. You want to fool around with $1,000. I'm sorry. You want to fool around over arguing over a few $1,000s. This is your home. At the end of the day, and this is another pet peeve. I'm sorry, I'm going to go down a rant here for real quickly, but
we're going to bring you back. Bringing you back.
There's so many times that the buyer gets hung up on the deal rather than the house. I sold a house recently, and the guy was convinced he's going to find the great deal. He found a deal, but it's not a home that you got to like what you pull up at night too. You got to enjoy what you're pulling up to at night. So,
I think if we show the client all the good, so yes, here's the negative, which we're off by $2,000 per se, but here's all the good that's going to make up for that, right? I want this beautiful dress, but I have to forego, dinner at P.F. Chang's or whatever. But I'm going to get this beautiful dress, right? Eventually, we got to show them the good in what they're getting here.
But $1,000 is what? $5 or $6 a month?
Yeah,
is my
$8 to
point.
$10.
Okay,
Yeah, $8 to $10. Yeah,
okay.
for sure. But to them, that's all that they see because clients come to me and they want a payment of such and such, right?
Right.
That could be $1,250.
Right.
Well, the new payment's going to be $1,275. To them, we are not giving them a house and a payment that's comfortable for them. That's $1,250.
Right.
So we need to work towards the education and back into the reasons why it's a win at $1,275. And similar to how we can get them over those small hurdles there at the end. But a really big part of making sure that your offer is so successful is the financing. Right?
That is so crucial.
Right.
So
and so,
crucial.
There's a lot of folks out there that everything is online now, right? So you could press a few buttons and poof, you're approved, or what you are is pre-qualified, maybe not so much approved, but you think you're
There's
approved.
a big difference in that. A lot of people don't understand that.
Huge, yeah. So that's where working with a lender, not so much a lender that you can trust, maybe a local lender, a lender with a reputation that all the agents know, and so they know that they're going to get you to the finish line successfully is key. Working with the big banks, they may be offering these teaser rates or these exciting things from a marketing standpoint, but maybe they won't finish or get you to that finish line in the smoothest manner, right? Or even get you to the finish line for that matter.
That's where that local accountability is so important.
It is. So let's talk a little bit about being pre-approved and pre-qualified, right? Those are two different things.
Right.
So to be pre-qualified, and if you see a letter as an agent, it says pre-qualified, that just means that the client called the lender and said, hey, my credit score is this, my income is that, and I have a few debts of such and such. And we plug it in and we say, poof, you are pre-qualified for this amount of money, right? Well, we don't at CMG Financial. We go the next step because we want to actually make sure that we stay true to our word. So we're not going to work towards pre-qualifying. We're going to ask a few more questions. We're going to want to see that pay stub. If you're self-employed, we're going to want to see that tax return. Because if you get so excited and you want to write an offer on that house that you find, we want to make sure that you are going to be able to stand up to that with the money.
It's like being a cash buyer then when you've got an approval letter. An approval letter coming from a local lender. Again, I got to stress that because if I'm looking at multiple offers on one of my listings and one of them has gone online and gotten a so-called a letter of what, it doesn't matter because it's online. On the line, is that what you call it?
On the line,
it's
yeah.
On the line. Or we've got a local lender who's got a great reputation. I'm telling you that 9 times out of 10, that local one's going to win.
Yeah, and don't be frustrated as a buyer that you have to submit in a little bit of paperwork on the upfront. It is going to be so much smoother on the back end to know you're truly approved. Being in my industry, I see so many people that were told they were approved and then denied just at the last minute, and that could be 3 or 4 days right before closing. And so it's really important to confirm that you truly have the money, so you could make a strong offer, on that house. Because the listing agent, right? If you've got 5 people that put an offer in there, they're going to be looking at all those letters. Is that right, Monte?
They are. They're going to be looking at every one of them. And Carey Ann, you've heard me say this before, but I don't know if I've shared this part with you that my first 6 transactions were with a lender that didn't know what he was doing. I loved his donuts. That's how he qualified. I mean, I didn't know what to ask for, and that's why I think this is so important, not just for the homeowners, but also for the local realtors to understand that it's so important to get connected with a good local lender who can bring value to your experience and increase the odds that you're going to be the offer being chosen if it's a multiple offer situation.
And you may be up against cash, and we've been in that situation.
Right.
And cash buyers are not always the best buyers either, right?
No.
And so even having a strong, true letter, and sometimes we go the extra mile. So we'll call the listing agent and we'll share with them how strong we feel that your buyer is.
I love
right?
that. I love that.
And we share our reputation. We share that we close as many loans as we do every single month, and we will commit to closing this on time. And I think the trust factor in hearing the conviction and the confidence in our voices as a lender to the agent is a big win for your buyers, for sure.
As a listing agent, you're having to extend trust to somebody you don't know so often, because if you don't know that agent. But when there's a lender that goes to the bother to reach out and personalize that individual buyer, it really does create that warm. It makes it feel a whole lot better.
Yeah, and I just want to stress a little bit more that let the lender ask you as many questions as possible, because sometimes those documents come over and doors open and they take you down a road that may or may not allow for what you thought was an approval today to be an approval tomorrow. So double checking all of that is really, really important. And how long does it take to close a loan or close a transaction?
Well, typically 30 to 45 days.
Right. And so a lot can happen between 30 and 45 days, right? And so where I come from, the north, we want to close things really fast. And so we, my staff and I, we average all of our closings under 15 days because we want to make sure that everything is moving. Not to rush anybody, but we want to make sure that if we
things can happen.
Yeah, things do happen. We want to make sure you can get into that house for sure.
People lose their job, or they buy a car, or they buy furniture, all these things that they shouldn't be doing, so the time is really critical.
Absolutely.
So real quickly, a couple more real quick ones is make the earnest money large enough that it gets the seller's attention. Don't write a check for $500. It needs to be enough that remember, you're not going to give that up unless you're not doing your part. If there's a multiple offer situation, consider writing a letter. Send a picture of the kids and the dogs, and finally, if you're dealing with multiple offers, consider an escalation clause. That's another way to ensure you're the likely one. Okay, so finally, one more thing is if you really want the place and you're going against other offers, consider an escalation clause. We'll be bringing the more details to what that looks like and whether that's a good thing or not. And Carey Ann, I think we've run out of time.
I know, our first show.
I know.
This has been a lot of fun. We just thank you so much for listening. The talk of Music City Real Estate. We're going to be with you every Sunday night, bringing a new vibe, and we're going to be talking all things related to real estate. But if you need us at all during the week, do not hesitate to reach out to questions at thetalkofmusiccity.com.